seems to be about. And Tony can go into more of that. Now, did we sign some agreements last year, maybe the year before, whenever? Times were entirely different then. Entirely different. You know better than I what's happened to the economy. Now, what we have done this year, as you know, we have basically an entirely new management. We learned in the past that we were wrong. So this year we changed it out. We now have probably, if not the best management, one of the best of all racing. We've tried a lot of new innovations this year. And this thing, unfortunately, came up right during the middle of the finest international race that was held in this country. And it was held here in Illinois. And we got publicity throughout the world. And I think you saw in 3 races, the Secretariat, the Beverly D, and the Million, you saw Breeder Cup type racing. You had some of the finest horses in the world. These are things we have to do to have the notoriety to bring people in. People don't come to races just for the fun of coming to races. You don't build a new customer. You have to have new ideas. We've got our sports bar. We've got a number of different things. When a casino comes into your market area, the past experience has been, for every racetrack, not just ours, every racetrack, and it happened to us, your handle goes down anywhere from 38 to 42%. The largest casino and the most profitable casino in the state of Illinois is in our backyard. Has it hurt us? Yeah, to a certain extent. But we have been able to hold our own. Not increase it a lot, but holding our own. And we feel that holding our own is very, very important, because we didn't go down as some of the others did. That casino is going to hurt us. Now, how are we going to get around? People say, well, that was a 10th River boat license. You're going to get the impact fee. We aren't going to get that impact fee. That money has to go to the General Assembly. They then have to appropriate it. And then it comes to us. What does a legislator look at? He wants the boats to get back to Springfield. Put yourself in his place. Any one of you are constituents of say you're mine. I'm running for a seat in the House. You guys have, maybe your child can't get to school because the school bus doesn't have enough money to the company to run. Got a pothole there. And then you read in the paper, $144 million went to those damn guys that gamble. Are you going to vote for me? Of course not. You're going to say, why didn't you take care of my street? Why don't you get my kids to school? Why don't our kids have short hours? Why do I have this and why don't I have that? So we have another problem in there, at which we have to get over. But anyone that is counting on getting that 3% is whistling Dixie. They aren't going to get it for a long, long time, not when the state is in this sort of condition. Any more than you're going to get the recapture money. The recapture money has to be appropriated by the legislators. Do you think there are many of those legislators that are going to say, those racetracks, I can't repair the streets in front of my constituent's house. He's not going to vote for me, but I'm going to give those racetracks all that money. It isn't going to happen. It isn't going to happen. Unless some miracle comes along and God drops Fort Knox in the middle of Illinois and they say, take the money. It's just not going to happen on there. So I wanted to make sure that everyone knew where this money came from. I spent an awful lot of money and an awful lot of time. We did it in quiet where no one knew about it and trying to get a Malero bill passed. And the bill you got is that close. There's been a couple of minor changes. My name, and I've stayed out of it. I've kept Arlington's name out of it. We've said the rest of the industry will put it together because then it becomes their bill, not an Arlington bill. What Arlington is trying to do, Arlington says this industry is on a downward curve. It's been that way for 7 years. And if we keep to go on that curve or straight going down the street, we're going to be out of business. I'm going to be out of a job. You're going to be out of a job. I figure it'll be 3 years if we stay doing what we're doing now. Some people say it'll be 2. Some say it'll be 4. But no one has said we won't be out of business. The system that we have been running our racetracks by is broken. We've proven that. That's why we're here today. The system is broken. And unless we put together a business system that works, we aren't going to be here. And I don't mean to use a scare tactic. We aren't. You can look at the charts. Now, last Sunday, at the round table that the Jockey Club holds in New York, they published a study. We don't have that study yet, but we've got summaries of the study. Almost without exception, the things that the study that they've paid, I don't know how many $1 million for, we have been trying this year, and most of it has been working. We didn't go way down because of the new casino. We kept it pretty much of a level. We didn't have all these programs going in, but we will have all the programs matured enough that they're going to be working next year. When you look at what happened, the Million is a perfect example. When you look and you see the associations we have, Howard got it set up with WGN. The Million went out across the country on TV. I'm getting letters and emails, and maybe you are too, of people that saw it and enjoyed it. Of course, we had a little rain and we had a little problems on getting the timing and so forth on there, but it got out and it went nationwide, and some of it went to Europe. We had horses from all over the world. We had people from all over the world. We had them from the Far East. We had horses from South Africa, Europe, horses, Ireland, England, France. You saw some of the best racing you've ever seen in Illinois. And if we let those things go, where's the rest of the stuff going to come? People will come out for that one race. You have to help us build a reputation that when you come to Arlington, you're going to get the finest quality. Now, anyone that thinks that we're going to be fiddling around with the same business models that we had before will go broke. I hate to bring a personal thing in, but I'd like to give you an example. When I got back from World War II, I started working for a company. They still hire me. That company had 38 men. It now has, and I don't even know how to count them, because I don't know how you'd count the distributors and so forth. We operate in 32 countries. We do well over $1 billion. The opportunities are here for us in this industry to do the same thing. But we have to work together. We have to know where we're coming from. Bickering will tear anything apart. Now, somebody asked Warren Buffett. He's the fellow that's, I guess, considered one of the richest men in the world. He has all the things you've heard of Berkshire Hathaway. What makes these major companies fall apart? He said, that's easy. I can tell you in one word: ego. And how many times do you pick up the paper and you hear about this company changing out their CEO, their president, that company changing out the next change? 90% of that is the leadership of those companies got too much ego and lost their direction and didn't fight for their industry and fight for their company. They fought for themselves to build up their ego. We need a new business plan. We think we have one. It's going to be debatable. It's going to have to be judged by the gaming or the racing board downtown. In any plan, everyone doesn't get 100% of what they want. But we're looking about, and what the mission for Arlington is, we have to take and reverse this downward slope that our industry is on, stop the bleeding, and get it building back up again. We have to find the common denominator that will bring us up to the top. I found in manufacturing that that was the same thing. I spent a good bit of time in the plant learning how to rivet, learning how to weld, learning how to burn steel. But I found that every time we put two people together that really didn't know what they are, and then take one good man, the two good men brought the two poor men brought the good man down. When I reversed it and put two good men with one poor man, they taught him how to go forward. And that's why we grew. One of the reasons why we grew. So I think what we're looking at is having a program that we can live with, one we can build on, one that you are going to benefit and get profit. I understand that the things are tough. They're tough all over. Thousands of people are being laid out of bed. We were just talking this morning. What's happened in Texas? Price of your food is going to go up. The price of your hay, your wheat, your oats, because there's a drought down there. Up here, we got a lot of the fields flooded. The farmers couldn't get into the fields early enough because of the rain. What happens? There's a shortage of food and agricultural product. What happens when there's a shortage? It goes up. Now, do you need more money? Sure. Or is someone just going to give it to us? No. We have to earn it. And what we are saying, times are not what they were 10, 15 years ago. Times are not what they were 10 years ago. We have to adjust today. If we had programs and agreements and so forth that happened a while back and they no longer are suitable, we have to change them. Now, let me just bring one thing here that is important because it's the key to our industry. 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, almost all wagering was done at the racetrack. Do you know how much is done at the racetrack now? Anyone know of that amount? 90% of the racetrack of the wagering is done away from the racetrack. It's done electronically. So how do we get into that 90%? Our market is no longer the 25 miles around the track. Our market is the entire country. Because if we're putting up on those television screens a poor program and doesn't have good betting, doesn't have a full field, doesn't have some quality in it, what does a fellow sitting in California OTB or in a California track or a New York track or Florida track do? Turns the knob and moves to a different station. We have to put on the best program just like any television station would. If they have a program that isn't being watched, the people move to another station, they can that program. We have some problems in front of us. They all aren't going to be solved overnight. But if we don't stay together and work as one unit, we're going to fail. And that failure is going to come fast because we're already down, moving down on a slippery slope. Tony is now the general manager. Y'all understand how the organizational structure here goes? Anyone that doesn't understand how it is, who owns us and how we operate? Well, then we won't go into it if you all understand it. How many do understand it? Raise your hand. Okay, that's about everyone. We have a parent company. That parent company is a publicly owned company. We were a privately owned company. I owned the whole company. If I said I wanted to build something over here, I said, build it over here. Because my family and I feel that we work for the people in the company. A public company is just opposite. The stockholders control the company. Being a public company, we have stockholders. We have a lot of them. We have to produce, or they're going to pull the plug. And if we don't find the ways to produce, that's our fault. That's why we changed out the management of the company this past year. And the management in Lexington or Louisville over the past few years since our merger is all completely new. It's changed out. We have changed now to the atmosphere in which we live in. And if we don't adapt in what we are doing and adapt to the literature, to the environment as it is today, we're going to die. We can't continue doing the same thing that our grandfathers did, our fathers did, and we're doing, and just saying we're going to do it better. That's the surest road to failure. And we have no intention of failing. We have no intention of letting you fail. It's our responsibility to create a business plan that you won't fail, but you have to carry your load too. We can't do it alone. We're asking you to carry your load. This bickering that we've had over the past week, coming right at the time of the biggest thing that we produced, which was last week, it took more than 70% of the time that we needed for management away to get into this bickering. We won't have that anymore. It just doesn't make sense. You're the ones that suffer. Our people are going to be able to get along. You're going to suffer. So we have to get a working together process. We have to understand each other. We are no longer going to sit in some rooms down there and argue and argue and argue and see who's going to win the argument. We're going to sit down there like gentlemen, and we're going to try to see if we can't get everyone to talk as gentlemen and solve the problem. Not who's going to win the argument. How are we going to solve the problem that's created the situation? We haven't even identified most of the problems. We've just said, how are we going to split the booty? What's going to happen when this Malero money runs out? It's a shot in the arm. It's almost like you go to the doctor, you get a flu shot, but you have to go back again next year. You go back again the year after. Malero bill is a one-shot deal. What's going to happen when that money runs out? We know it's going to run out sooner or later. We just don't know. Well, we know it's going to be within 3 years. We also know that if we get slot machines, the very earliest we could get a bill passed, if a bill is passed. And this morning and yesterday, the governor said, well, we've got too much, again, why do the racetracks need slot machines? They already have gambling. Well, we have to get over those things. You know, we can say that our people have been down talking to this one and that one. Hell, the governor has called every group in that is affected, 50-some groups. He's listened to them all. We have no influence. You have no influence down there. He's going to make up his own mind, within reason. Is it going to be right and agreeable with you? I don't know. Have no idea. But I think it's in the Sun-Times this morning. He's saying, gee, they already have gambling at the racetrack. We've got too much gambling. Why put it at the racetracks? Now, will that change? Probably. But in the meantime, it's not something we can count on. What we have to do is take this Malero bill and make the very best investments in our industry and make it where it's going to do the most good. And there we have to sit down and work together. If we fight about it, what's going to happen when we go down to the veto session and try and get the bill passed in October? They're going to say, as they have for 20 years, you guys don't come back here until you're all together. And that's the direction we're moving in. That's the direction we have to completely avoid. Now, the guy here that's responsible for what happens at the racetrack isn't me. It's Tony. Tony has been made general manager by the people down in Louisville, Churchill Downs Incorporated. We don't belong to Churchill Downs, the racetrack. We are part of Churchill Downs Incorporated, which is a company. We have a track and a casino in Florida. We have a track and a casino in Louisiana. We have a track called Churchill Downs in Louisville, and we have the track here. Florida and Louisville, or Florida and Louisiana each have a casino at the racetrack. And we have one standalone casino down in Louisiana. So we think we know a little bit about how the gaming operation goes. We know how the money should be distributed. We know what's going to make the thing go. And we want to keep you people informed, but we're not doing that. We're failing in keeping you informed. That's why we're having the meeting today. We're not here to argue back and forth. We're here to see if we can't help you understand our problem and if we can't know more about your problem. Oh, I've talked far, far longer than I should have. But I'd like to have Tony tell you about what we're going to be doing and how we're going to do it.